Well, I think you have an opportunity tonight to make a forecast, and I always like to sit on forecasts, and then 6 months from now,
Let me add to
for us to look back
let me add a postscript then. When I was on coast during the first Chinese mission, the manned mission, I laid out that the Chinese Soyuz is a much more sophisticated version of the Russian Soyuz. It's fully 21st century standard rocket technology, but state of the art. It wouldn't take much to take that existing infrastructure and send it to the moon.
right?
Like the Russians originally planned.
Right.
Only the Chinese would do it with state of the art tracking, computerized technology, inertial nav systems, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The only thing they're lacking is an experience base of operations in Earth orbit and rendezvous. They don't have their rendezvous yet, and they're coming up on their next mission, which I believe is going to include rendezvous. They're talking about a 10-year, 15-year time frame for manned missions. I think that is a complete canard, a false trail. I think they are much more aggressive, and based on what their unmanned probe tells them, which I could tell them if they just dropped by and I'd show them some pictures, they're going to suddenly either not announce it and just do it, or announce it and then do it, and perform an end run, because they don't have the anti-gravity technology, but based on what we showed them, meaning we, the United States, NASA for the last 40 years, they know where they can go to get it. And I think that's their game plan. And I'm looking at a culture which has the money now, the means, and the opportunity.
I mean, their economy is growing at 9% a year.
Yeah,
ours is
it's their
3.5,
industrial
which is
revolution.
really
Our
healthy,
period's,
but, yeah, I got mine.
we're de-spinning and they're winding up.
And don't forget what Fulford says is that they want them to release the torsion technology.
Right.
That's what he's saying. He's saying that's the game, that they're going to apply pressure until we release the torsion technology, because they believe that we're going to strangle them through oil prices, which is what we're going to do. And that's why oil is going up. And you can see all this stuff playing out on the political level, and it's really incredibly interesting.
Well, and you remember Fulford saying that Japan has had a technology that converts water to hydrogen very easily for 30 years, but that they've been prevented from using it because of the threat of force to oppose them from doing that. So
I just flashed on a very interesting ancient Chinese proverb. May you live in interesting times. And we sure do.
Well, I was just hoping tonight we could get a timestamp and see where things are for 6 months
Have
from
we
now.
given you what you...
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Thank you.
Leave your card.
Hi. I'd like to thank you for first off showing some of the government agencies, some of the roosters and the owls, as I remember hearing you talk about.
Yes, the owls and the roosters.
You know, not all government agents. I'm a former airman. You know, a lot of us were compartmentalized, and I can speak to it.
Absolutely.
You don't know what the left hand's doing with the right.
Well, you know,
hand.
and NASA's compartmentalized too. I mean, it's set up like a military operation. It always was. Anyway, go ahead.
My question though is about the tensile material on the moon. That seems to be the most fascinating stuff out of all this. And it brings to mind the Space Shuttle Tether mission 76, where they just strung out. It seems like, you know, crude tools trying to mimic advanced tools, like trying to go for the symmetry. And you know, if you watch some of that video, there's lots of strange and patented stuff flying around there. But I'm curious, I've seen some of these footage of chemtrails and what they also talk about with the chroma and the silica-like material. Do you think this is kind of analogous to what we're going to see, maybe something like aerogel? Because you talk about, like, it's smoky, and I've seen the smoked aerogel at JPL.
Yeah, I held it. Yeah.
Cool stuff.
Yeah. You want to?
No.
Oh, okay. One of the things, no time to get into, is that my model for the ruins, for the buildings, the incredible skyscraper type scaffolding and the spire sticking up, that one shot over Sinus Medi, it just blows me away. And I keep trying to imagine what it looked like when it was new. I got to thinking one day, you know, there's been a lot of effort in the material science area around carbon fullerenes. Carbon fullerene is basically a 60 atom molecule, 60 carbon atoms arrayed in a geometric lattice which looks kind of like Buckminster's geodesic dome, so they call them buckyballs. And what they can do is they can insert other atoms inside, caged in the ball, and create materials with very precise properties. So you've all heard, I'm sure, for all the sci-fi stories that, we have carbon-based life, and then you have silicon-based life, because carbon and silicon are very similar chemically. So I got to thinking, what if you built a buckyball, not out of carbon, but out of silicon? And you put the oxygen, silicon dioxide, in the center. Could you build an equivalent atomic structure, an equivalent material, out of silicon buckyballs? Now, one of the things about carbon buckyballs is that they're self-healing. They anneal. If I take the 45 and I have a sheet of, fullerene, and I shoot through it, like you've seen the wound healing on some of the sci-fi shows, it goes, and it's gone. And the only reason that can work is if it's actually pulling in HD energy, etheric energy, from another dimension because of the geometry, and so you're basically repairing the entropic destruction that you have created by firing something or taking a knife and all that. So I got to thinking, if the glass was similar, if it was self-annealing, if it was silicon active buckyballs, and the reason it's still there is it's damn strong, and it repairs itself up to a certain point until there's nothing left and then it can't repair itself, that would explain how it's persisted all this time. So then I got to thinking, who is the materials leading guys that had a lot of NASA contracts back in the 60s and 70s and whatever? And it was Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. So I called up Rensselaer one day and I said, let me talk to some materials guy. And I told him who I was, Cronkite and all that. It's amazing what that door still opens. So I got this guy on the phone and I said, what if you were to create a silicon? I went through the energy and all that, not mentioning the moon at all, just, he said, there'd be zero economic potential in that. This conversation's finished, and he slammed down the phone. And that's when I knew that somebody had invented this, and they were going to try to make money here. And I think a lot of this, a la Corso, they brought back technology, they brought back samples, they brought back stuff, and they basically turned it over for private profit, and it's being leaked into the economic sector in safe ways with no paper trail, no heritage to where it really came from. And a lot of fat cats are making fortunes on the American taxpayer, which is what the good old greedy system that Corso talked about has done to us. So I think this stuff is incredibly strong. I think that it was doesn't it ever strike you as odd that AT&T, we used to have twisted wire pairs, right? You had copper wires connecting all the phones in America. Then we went to optical fibers and use lasers now, and you can send millions of times more information, higher bandwidth, all that. You can send video and multiplex and the internet and all that. Well, that all depends on the breakthrough in creating optically long fibers that are miles long that don't absorb the laser signals. AT&T pioneered this incredible breakthrough technology that now has created the wired world, the internet, optical fiber, wired world, which allows us to function as a 21st century civilization. AT&T, through the form of Belcom, were the prime contractors to pick all the landing sites for Apollo on the moon. Can you spell incestuous corporate relationship?
Yeah.
Okay. Kelly?